All right, so this week's topic was on free will versus determinism, whether or not human beings have free will, or if there is universal causality that determines our actions that we create every single day of our lives. So from this week's discussion, I took away a lot of different things. First, that there were a lot more arguments for both, that we do have free will and that there is determinism in our life, but also that there were a couple of comments that just kind of supported free will or just determinism. For the free will side, I read a lot about like interactions with the world and how those aren't set in stone in the way that we behave and act accordingly to those. There's no accuracy in predicting what an individual will or will not do dependent upon a situation that we come upon. And that humans are just too complex to say that we just fit into one category of all of our actions being determined in a certain way. So the moral implications for all those free will statements were that there is accountability or responsibility for everything that we do. So we can't say that we are responsible or accountable if everything's determined, and everything that we do has a certain kind of step that we're supposed to take. On the other side, it looks like it was Ryan who pointed that our experiences recognize no free will, that we're just a collection of reflexes and reactions, and that behavior based on learned behavior or free will is irrelevant to morality. And there is a side to that I do agree with, that everything that we do mechanically, the way that we move and such, are reflexes based upon the reactions that we have. So the question is, do we own up to our actions if we are already determined to be a certain way, or do we rely on free will and say that we make the choices that we make in our lives because we have total control over that? But if you think about it, like if we have total control, then would that be determinism? If we didn't have total control, would that be free will? There's always that gray area. So my thoughts on all this is that there is a healthy balance of both. Sometimes free will may not be as present as determinism. There are still choices that need to be made. And there are choices that are made for us beforehand. There are still factors that are predetermined. So like social status, or, the way that we are genetically made. But also there are things that we can choose to do. And that's the free will portion that I believe is present in our lives. And then also with like mental illness and being born with it or being diagnosed later, this can be something that's determined genetically, but it's also like an experience that shapes us. And so that can also determine the way that we think, as well as the choices that we make later on. That could be the free will choice of seeing a psychologist, or deciding that they don't want to continue treatment, or they don't want treatment at all. So those are my thoughts on this week's discussion. Thanks, guys.